Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're opening up the audit books right here in the US on what might be the most audacious technological claim of the entire year. A Miami-based startup called Subquadratic, or SubQ, just came out of stealth mode, and they're claiming to have completely shattered the biggest bottleneck in modern AI. We're talking about a leap so massive, it could literally rewrite the entire economic infrastructure of the tech world overnight. And here is the explosive claim staring us right in the face, a 12 million token context window. Now you might be wondering, what does that actually look like? Well, to put it into perspective, 12 million tokens is roughly 9 million words. Imagine taking 120 full-length books, or the entire Python codebase, and just dumping the whole shebang into a single prompt. The AI holds all of it in its head at once, reasoning across every single page simultaneously.
And guys, Silicon Valley is taking this very seriously. SubQ secured a massive $500 million valuation right out of the gate, backed by $29 million in seed money. We are looking at a cap table loaded with early investors linked to heavyweights like Tinder, Anthropic, OpenAI, Stripe, and Brex. People who know exactly how to spot a paradigm shift? Yeah, they're betting big on this team.
But honestly, this is the statistic that'll stop any auditor cold. SubQ claims they're hitting this 12 million token window using 1,000 times less compute than current frontier models. 1,000x efficiency gain? That's not just an optimization. If it's true, it's a complete structural revolution. But to really grasp why this is such a holy grail, we've got to look at the massive wall the entire AI industry has been banging its head against.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the villain, which is AI's costly quadratic bottleneck.
So the real villain of our story is standard transformer attention. This is the engine under the hood of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, you name it. The way it works is that every single token, so every piece of a word, in your prompt has to be compared against every other token to understand the context. It's like trying to find a specific fact in a 120-book library, but to do it, you're forced to cross-reference every single word with every other word in the entire building. It creates this absolutely immense mathematical wall.
And the math behind this is brutal. When you double your input length, the compute cost doesn't just double, it quadruples. It scales quadratically. Going from a modest 10,000 tokens to a 1 million token context doesn't increase your compute 100 times, it increases it by roughly 10,000 times. This scaling nightmare is exactly why the whole industry currently relies on really expensive, clunky workarounds like vector databases and RAG, retrieval augmented generation, just to search for fragments of documents instead of reading the whole thing.
Moving right along to Section 2, the secret weapon, or SSA.
So SubQ claims they've bypassed this mathematical wall completely using what they call Subquadratic Sparse Attention, or SSA. Instead of forcing the AI to blindly compare every token to every other token, SSA actually reads from meaning first. It figures out what relationships actually matter to your prompt, and it skips wasting precious compute on all the irrelevant noise. Because it's only focusing on what matters, the scaling becomes linear. If your context window doubles, your compute cost just doubles. It doesn't quadruple.
Now, sparse attention isn't exactly a brand new idea, but previous attempts usually fell into a major trap. Older models, like DeepSeek's sparse attention, use an indexer to select what to focus on, but that indexer itself still has a quadratic cost. That means at huge contexts, the selector literally becomes more expensive than the attention itself. SubQ claims their SSA avoids this entirely. They say their architecture is completely linear all the way through, from selection straight to attention.
All right, Section 3, the receipts. Let's crunch the actual benchmarks.
Now, what's really interesting here is the demanding Ruler 128K long context retrieval benchmark. Claude Opus hits around 94% accuracy, but it costs a staggering $2,600 per run. SubQ? Well, they claim they hit 95% accuracy on the exact same benchmark for just $8. That is a jaw-dropping 300x cost reduction to achieve equivalent frontier-level accuracy. And the capabilities hold up remarkably well across the board. SubQ's 1.1 small model, which is their highly efficient lightweight version, is going toe-to-toe with the most powerful frontier models in the world. On SWBench, testing real-world coding, it actually edges out Claude Opus. On GPQA Diamond, which is a brutal graduate-level science test, it holds its own. And on the Finance Automation Benchmark, testing complex business logic, it sits right within striking distance.
And at the absolute extreme, out at that massive 12 million token mark, SubQ scored a 92.1% accuracy on the needle in a haystack test. That means hiding one specific fact inside 120 books of text and the AI finding it perfectly almost every single time. And crucially, this wasn't just them saying so, it was independently verified by a third party, Appen.
Which brings us to Section 4, the fine print, and the inevitable audit red flags.
Because as auditors of Silicon Valley hype, we absolutely have to look at the footnotes, right? This quote from a prominent AI commentator perfectly captures the cinematic tension here. SubQ is either the biggest breakthrough since the Transformer, or it is AI Theranos. I mean, the stakes literally could not be higher. It's either the dawn of a completely new tech era, or one of the most expensive illusions we've ever seen.
So the crucial point is right here with the MRCR version 2 benchmark. It's a very tough test of reasoning across long contexts. SubQ reported an internal lab result of 83%, but when third-party verified in production, that score dropped to 65.9%. That is a massive 17.1% negative delta. And look, in the audit world, a gap that wide between internal promises and external reality is a flashing yellow light.
And that leads us to the 4 major red flags giving industry experts and investors some serious pause. First up, many of these benchmarks were only run once due to cost, which obviously raises cherry-picking concerns. Second, this isn't a ground-up model. Actually, their CTO admitted they built their architecture on top of existing open-source weights. Third, there's the access paradox. If your compute is genuinely 1,000 times cheaper, why is the API locked behind a highly restricted waitlist? You don't ration a product that's dirt cheap to run. And finally, a $500 million valuation for a seed-stage team with no peer-reviewed paper? That is incredibly steep.
We also kind of have to remember that the industry has watched this exact movie before. Back in August 2024, a startup called Magic.dev announced a 100 million token model, claimed a 1,000x efficiency gain, and raised $500 million. Cut to early 2026, and there is virtually zero public evidence of real-world adoption. Massive context promises have a bad habit of vanishing into thin air under real-world pressure.
Finally, Section 5, the verdict on the future of AI infrastructure.
Look, if SubQ has genuinely solved the quadratic bottleneck, we are looking at the death of RAG. Right now, there's a multi-billion-dollar scaffolding of vector databases and retrieval pipelines that exists solely because AI can't hold whole documents in memory. If SSA actually works, that entire industry becomes obsolete overnight. You don't build complex search pipelines to find fragments of a legal contract. You just drop the whole thing into the prompt and ask the AI what you want to know. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. Is the AI landscape about to change forever, or is this just another 1000x illusion? Over the next few months, as developers finally get their hands on this, the truth is going to come out. We'll see if the cost curve of AI actually bends, or if SubQ joins the long list of candidates that worked beautifully on paper and failed in production. Now, if you want to stay on the absolute brink of this AI revolution and audit the future right alongside us, please make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe. Your engagement is what helps us bring these deep dive explainers to our US audience and beyond. Thanks for hanging out and stay focused.